people in this world who go looking for adventure. Christopher McCandless was searching for himself.
Chris McCandless was captivated by the spell of Alaska. Rugged, wild, challenging. At age 22, he was itching for a romantic adventure, a chance to live like his hero, novelist Jack London, who penned The Call of the Wild. Alaska, where the northern lights stir that yearning for adventure which can haunt a young man. Outside magazine editor John Krakauer was also drawn to Alaska in his youth. As an author, he wrote a book about McCandless called Into the Wild.
When a young person is moved by this sort of passion and feels compelled to go on this sort of quest, I think you have to let him. I think there's no way you can stop it. In our culture, we don't have formal rites of passage like in some ancient cultures. They're taking risk, subjecting yourself to a dangerous rite of passage maybe is something many people have to go through to become a man or a woman.
He graduated with honors in May of 1990. He had achieved. His future was assured. When, at the party his parents threw, Chris announced he was going to drop out of sight for a while. He explained he needed to quench a thirst for adventure. He headed west, and like the setting sun, slowly vanished from the life he had known and the family that had raised him. McCandless was transformed. A nomad with a new life and a new name, Alexander Supertramp.
He aspired to be a super tramp, wandering the world, hanging out with bums and drifters, living on nothing but his wits. And for 2 years he did that.
Within months, the letters and calls home petered out. His parents were distraught. Their son had rejected them and their lifestyle.
He just wanted to go from adventure to adventure and experience life fully. He wasn't after security. He wasn't after the house, the kids, the car.
My parents were concerned, as any parent would be, that they hadn't heard from their son in so long. And they basically just wanted to know that he was all right and he was still alive. And so they hired a private investigator.
The investigator's search reached as far as Europe and South Africa, but Alex Supertramp was just cruising through the West. Some disturbing clues surfaced. The family was shocked to learn Chris had donated all of his money, over $24,000, to famine relief. But the Supertramp had vanished.
Where are your mom and dad?
Living their lives somewhere.
Did your folks know where you are?
So you're a leather now.
I'm a leather?
Yeah, leather tramp. That's what they call the ones that hoof it.
Don't you think you ought to be getting a job and making something of this life?
I only got one plan. I'm going to Alaska.
Alaska? Or City, Alaska?
I'm gonna be all the way out there.
Yeah.
In the wild.
What are you doing when we're there? Now you're in the wild. What are you doing?
You're just living, man.
I went to South Dakota. I worked for this guy named Wayne.
What do you think about all this?
I like all this.
I took the Colorado River all the way down through the Grand Canyon and did rapids.
What's the N stand for?
North.
Your Great Alaskan Adventure.
Years later, John Krakauer retraced Chris McCandless's journey. He learned that when Chris had arrived at Lake Mead, California, he was caught in a flash flood and forced to abandon his car.
He took out the last money in his wallet, $123, put it in a little pile in the sand, lit it on fire, took a picture of it.
What was the significance in giving away his remaining funds and then burning even his pocket money?
Chris thought money was inherently evil. He thought nothing good came of it. You didn't need it. It was corrupting. It made you cautious and greedy and overly concerned about the wrong thing.
Alex Supertramp, as he now calls himself, has come to the most crucial part of his journey. Ahead of him lies the challenge of his life, the rugged Alaskan wilderness. He is alone, equipped with the barest essentials, determined to survive on his wits. But not every adventure has a happy ending. Tom Jarrell picks up the story at a dramatic and irrevocable crossroads.
Electrician Jim Gallion picked Alex up hitchhiking on the road between Fairbanks and Anchorage. He says he knew right away the young man was in over his head.
When I found out he didn't have any boots, I told him he could use mine. Just give me a call when he came out of the woods, get him back to me. He said he didn't want to see anybody. In fact, he gave me his watch. He had a comb. He had about 85 cents in change, and he just threw it on the dash of my truck, threw the map down, didn't want to know what day it was, what time it was, or where he was.
Gallion dropped Alex off on an abandoned mining road called the Stampede Trail and snapped a photograph. It was the end of April 1992, and Alex Supertramp marched into the wild wearing a stranger's boots.
The adventure of his life was unfolding. He was enjoying himself. He had to do the ultimate test, and anything less than that wouldn't have cut the mustard. After a couple days, he came to a river, the Teklanika, which at the time, because things were still pretty well frozen up, was only about knee-deep. It was cold, but he just waded across.
On the third day, he caught a glimpse of America's highest peak, Denali, away to the south.
4 days in, he found this bus, called it the Magic Bus.
The bus, a junker from Fairbanks left for hunters, was 28 miles from the main road. It was outfitted with a stove and a bed. Alex's backpack was only half full, carrying 10 pounds of rice, a .22 caliber rifle, some ammunition, and paperback books. He was determined to live off the land. There's plenty of wild game, from birds of prey circling overhead to moose and brown bear. In this primitive land, the hunters often become the hunted. In the spring, there's also a natural bounty of edible wild plants. Alex became philosophical. His Declaration of Independent Life was inscribed on the bus. Ultimate freedom, an extremist, an aesthetic voyager whose home is the road. He flees and walks alone upon the land to become lost in the wild. And he kept a daily log of his successes and failures. Posing with the game he caught, he snapped self-portraits.
Living off the land is a full-time job. I mean, he basically spent most of every day gathering berries and mushrooms and Eskimo potato, hunting small game. He shot a lot of porcupines, squirrels, grouse, ptarmigan. At one point, he shot the moose, which was like hitting the jackpot, this 700-800 pound moose.
But he did not know how to preserve the meat, and it soon rotted. By early July, Alex Supertramp had proven he could survive in the wild and was ready to head for home. He hiked back down the Stampede Trail toward the Teklanika River. But the stream he had crossed easily in the spring had become a torrent of melted snow. Without maps which would have shown a way across the river nearby, Alex had become a prisoner, trapped on the wrong side of a raging river. For the first time, his journal entries implied danger. Days 68 and 69, disaster, rained in, river looks impossible, lonely, scared.
There was no fighting it. I mean, nature had spoken, and he recognized that fact.
If you want something in life, reach out and grab it.